This isn't about blaming anyone, it's about learning. Because if we don't talk about it, we're bound to repeat it. I want to talk about a recent tragedy that struck several RV parks in Kerr County, Texas. Let's go over what happened. In the early mornings on July 4th, severe flash flooding occurred in Kerrville and Hunt, Texas. This wasn't any normal flood by any means. This was hopefully a once-in-a-lifetime event, but the devastation will be remembered forever. RVers and campers were sleeping away, ready for the upcoming 4th of July celebrations. But instead of waking up to a holiday, they woke up to a life-changing tragedy. Over 12 inches of rain fell in the upstream areas within a short period. The Guadalupe River rose over 26 feet in just 45 minutes. The total volume of water that fell on Kerr County was estimated at over 100 billion gallons of water, which is more than the daily flow of Niagara Falls. Several RV parks that were situated near the river were completely flooded and washed away. Multiple RVs were swept away and emergency evacuations were necessary. Some guests were rescued from trees, others lost all of their belongings. Currently, there are more than over 100 deaths at the time of filming this video. This wasn't just rising water, it was a wall of water. Something you simply can't outrun once it starts. This leads me to a question I want to explain. Why RV parks are often built in floodplains? There's actually several reasons. Land in floodplains is typically much cheaper to acquire, and RV parks don't require permanent foundations, making them easier to permit and construct. So, local municipalities may not enforce strict floodplain regulations on temporary use structures. FEMA defines floodplain zones like AE as high-risk zones with a 1-inch annual chance of flooding. Several of these parks were in the AE zones, which, to me, is a matter of time zone, unlike the 100 or 500-year floodplains that are typical. However, RV parks are often allowed in these zones with certain elevation or evacuation plans, or nothing at all. Building in a floodplain looks like a shortcut for many developers, especially first-timers. But when you cut corners with Mother Nature, she often reminds you who's in charge. What's the real risk of developing in an AE zone like we saw with several RV parks and campgrounds in the Kerr County area? AE zones have a known flood risk and FEMA-mapped base flood elevations. Some Kerr County parks were developed within these AE zones. The 26-foot rise was an extreme situation, but not impossible. With the type of storms and disasters we've seen lately, and the history in the area of floods. To understand floodwater, you really have to understand that the full risk is not just the depth of the water. It's about the flow, the velocity, debris, and the lack of warning. Flash floods don't always follow forecast. They come fast and hard. And in this situation, they forecasted 5 to 7 inches of rain. And most areas received over 12 inches of rain. That's a huge difference. I really want to be clear here. I'm not here to criticize the park owners. Some of them may have inherited these parks. Others may have trusted flood maps that hadn't been updated in years. This was a freak event, but it was also a wake-up call. I always try to find a positive from any negative situation. And the only positive that I can find is the hope that we can educate RVers and RV park developers on these sometimes neglected risk factors. I'd like to go over a few suggestions that can help you prepare for your RV park development that you may be considering or that you have already developed in a flood zone. First things first, always consult floodplain maps and hydrology studies before purchasing land. Consider elevation certificates, evacuation plans, and insurance limitations. Build with contingencies. Elevated pads, fast drain fields, and emergency signage. If building in a flood-prone zone, make sure your business model reflects that risk, financially and ethically. And not all floodplains are equally dangerous. Understand the difference between AE, VE, and X zones, 100-year, 500-year floodplains. And don't just talk to the permit clerks. Talk to the local floodplain administrators. It's not something you want to take lightly. At the end of the day, you can't stop the rain, but you can decide where to plant your flag and how prepared you want to be when the river rises. My heart goes out to the families who lost their homes and to the operators who watched their lives' work get washed away. RV parks are more than real estate. They're places where people make memories, and that makes it all the more important we develop them responsibly. If you're a developer, buyer, or investor in the RV park space, take this event seriously. Ask the hard questions. Spend the extra time and money on due diligence. And above all, respect the land, because it doesn't always respect us back. If you want more RV insights, check out my other videos. In the meantime, please keep all the flood victims in your thoughts and prayers. And thanks for watching, and happy camping. Be safe out there.